All right. You're listening to the Dead Man's Tone podcast, a show broadcast from a trailer park deep in the heart of Meth County, Texas. I'm your host, Mr. Deadman. With me tonight is S.K. Barrett, a life coach that can unfuck your life. Also, Tammy G, the lovely Tammy G. We also have Wes from Real Monsters, which if you haven't checked out that podcast, you definitely have to. And then, of course, our guest tonight, Steve DiSchiavi. How's it going?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I'm not out on a date, so I'll take that for what it's worth.
You and me both. I don't date.
It's overrated.
Dating?
It's totally overrated.
Just get straight to business for the date part.
That's much more fun.
Did you say from Met Central, Texas?
Well, might as well be. I mean, the county I live in is pretty bad. There's some areas where whenever I get my day job, when I get a particular assignment, I know it's probably going to be meth related. So that's all I'm going to say. Yeah. But I got one announcement, really. Dead Man's Tone Monster Party is released. When you think Monster Party, you're probably thinking of like traditional monsters like Dracula, the Mummy, Frankenstein, them. But those guys are overrated. They always hog the spotlight. This Monster Party is all about the lesser known B monsters like you got the Wendigo. I'm sorry, Yeti, the Mosquito, the Leorilla, things like that. And people. So you can get an early release of this, take a preview. Actually, not a preview, the full thing. You'll just be a patron. Patreon.com/deadmanstone, and you get access to Monster Party. All right, that's it. That's my announcement. Do it.
There you go. Do it.
You know what I'll do too? During the live stream, depends on donations. You donate $5, I'll go and take a shot. I'll do that tonight too. I got some more of this Crystal Skull vodka that I need to get rid of. So let's make that happen. Right? All right.
Heard it right here, folks. Get him drunk.
Get him drunk. That's right. All right. Steve DiSchiavi, I think a lot of people, just about everybody knows who you are, man, right? I mean, retired homicide detective, the co-host of The Dead Files. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, it is. I get weirded out sometimes because people are like, you're a celebrity. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really. And I'm just the guy on a reality show. And they're like, no, you're a celebrity. I'm like, yeah, I don't like that word because I've worked with celebrities doing their security, and the last thing I want to do is be associated with celebrities. So.
The word doesn't
trigger
you.
Celebrities aren't regular people? What?
No, they're basically douchebags, most of them.
Oh, I like that. He does.
Worked dirty for quite a few, and I won't mention names, but the funny thing about them is that the ones you think are going to be assholes wind up being really sweet people, and the ones you're like, oh, I can't wait to meet them, they're the biggest douchebags on the planet, and you're like, oh, what an ass. Just totally just kind of like,
I think I have an idea here. So if they play a nice person in their roles, if they typically play the nice guy, they're probably the asshole in real life, huh?
Well, I'll give you one for instance. I can mention his name, like Richard Gere. You think women adore him, right? And you would think he thinks he's God gift to women, right? You couldn't ask for a guy. I mean, he was just humble and sweet. He was, after like 2 days, he still remembered my name. He thanked me for taking care of his parents and making sure they were okay. And he just couldn't have been more sincere and genuine. And that's a good one. That's one where I wasn't expecting that. And then, I've worked with other celebrities and it'd be like, what a dick. I just want to put this guy right in his fucking face so bad. And then, I got to get paid. I got a daughter in college, and you do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
I am officially a horrible person for thinking of the gerbil story when you mentioned Richard Gere.
Yeah, I'm going to hell.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. I mean, really, to me, he was. Mm-hmm. I don't know if everybody else has had that experience, but I found that celebrities consider people that do security like the lowest of the low. Like they're almost like the people serving food to them.
No.
Oh man.
They're above them. Meanwhile, they've never done any bit of real work in their fucking life.
Right.
And it just,
Yeah.
it just aggravates me the way they treat staff, and like when people wonder why, like, we have production assistants that work with us, and they're, I'm always very, very polite to them, and because I know what it's like to see it, and I'm like, I'd never want to be. I'm not that guy anyway, but I would never want to be perceived as that guy.
Yeah.
Like where's my coffee? There's not enough milk in here, or whatever. There's I need more sugar. That kind of crap. I get coffee. I don't need nobody to get me my coffee. So,
Like, Steve, I think you really show your true character in how you work with the people who have gone through traumatic experiences on that show. I'm always in awe of how you do that.
It's not nothing new for me. I mean, I consider people that are being terrorized by the paranormal crime victims.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
I just treat them as a crime victim. The perpetrator is the paranormal.
Okay.
That's basically how I approach it. Listen, whether it's true or not, they believe it, right?
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't help them if you're just, making fun of them.
No, you got to have empathy. I mean, it's like everything else. If you don't have empathy, then don't do that job. Don't be in that field. You're gonna have to help people. But I just approach it as a crime scene. The house would be a crime scene to me, and they're basically just witnesses to a crime or the victim of a crime, and I'm just getting their story. And and the experts are basically people helping me out. Like I had a homicide, for instance, I had a homicide where a girl was buried in a bunch of flowers that the perpetrator purposely put around her, but they weren't indigent to the park that we were in. So I had to go to a botanist to find out where the hell these plants came from. So it's the same thing as an expert. Like I have to go to them to find out. All right, so, genealogists, I would never do their job. I mean, what I do is bad enough, but they go so deep. And they get really into it, and they're very anal about what they do. And so when you talk to these people, it's like they're a wealth of information. So you got to utilize these tools for your investigations. When people ask me, "Oh my God, you must suck," no, I get help. You got to have somebody help you.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. You need a lot of experts out there, especially in their field. You're definitely gonna need that when it comes time to court, because they're gonna be like, "What? Are you an expert in this area?"
Well, exactly. Exactly. Oh yeah, I'm on my side. I'm a homicide detective, but I'm a botanist as well. I mean, that doesn't.
That doesn't fly.
Yeah.
Like you need doctors on hand, you need psychiatrists on hand, you need people who are experts in their areas.
Yeah, and that's why I tell people when they write into me, how do I do this? How do I do that? I says, don't do it all yourself. Try to employ people that'll help you.
Okay, now let's talk about the beginning of your career as a homicide detective. Start with.
Well, I didn't start there.
Oh, you didn't start there. Okay, where did you start? How did you start?
That's why I laugh when people go, I want to go into law enforcement. I want to be a homicide detective. I'm like, yeah, great. I started out on a foot post, walking a beat. That's how I did it. That's how every homicide detective does. You don't just all of a sudden, oh, you know what? I'm on the job now. I'm in homicide. It doesn't work that way.
Right, you have to work your way up.
I went from working on a beat on a foot post to in a radio car to answering radio calls to going into plain clothes. Then I went to narcotics.
Because you got to learn the whole job, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to learn to walk before you run, and homicide's not for everybody. Not everybody has the ability to do that. I'm not patting myself on the back, but it does take a special person to figure out. And not everybody's cut out to be a detective. Let's put it that way. Some people are cut out to be sergeants and lieutenants and administrators, I should say.
Yeah.
Well, some people are good at the narcotics thing, because I worked narcotics for 4 years, and everybody has their expertise. So for me, homicide just happened to be. I'm a street guy. I'm from Brooklyn, so I was raised on the street. I grew up around wise guys. There was people getting murdered left and right in my neighborhood.
Damn.
So for me. The street was my schooling, so to speak, for to work on the street.
Right.
That makes sense.
So, yeah. So it came easy to me. Narcotics came easy to me. Plain clothes came easy to me. I worked on the cover for, I think it was 4 or 5 months. And then while I was in narcotics. So, that stuff just came easy to me. Like some people, they're test takers. They become sergeants and lieutenants. They're great at doing administrative work or,
Oh, my God. Thank goodness there's those kind of people.
Yeah, thank God is right.
Yeah.
Thank God there's betas.
About an interview, but interrogations was my thing. Getting the truth out of people, and not just perpetrators, but even witnesses that are reluctant to tell you what they saw.
The type who has to think on their feet. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to be able to know how to not play people, but know how to get them to talk to you.
Yeah.
And that's what I bring to the show. I mean, I don't bring much to the show other than I know how to get people to talk. I mean, I have people on the show telling me stuff they don't tell their own husbands, and they don't tell their own parents. And I'm like, and
it's
them
weird.
telling
Like,
me,
did you have to learn how to do that, or did that come naturally to you?
That's a good question. It just kind of, came kind of natural because like I said, I'm a street guy. Because when you grow up in Brooklyn, especially in my neighborhood, you had to know who was trying to play you and who wasn't. So you became pretty crafty early on. Even at 10, 11 years old, you got to be crafty even as a kid. So I think that that nobody can get over on me thing has to do a lot with being tough and also being smart at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hard to do. It's very difficult to learn or to even be born with. A lot of people aren't born with any goddamn common sense, and it aggravates the hell out of me. I'm like, I
don't understand why it's called common sense, because it's certainly not.
It's not that common.
Not at all.
Do you find that it's mostly, I mean, in your experience, do you find that it's more women than men that will spill more out to you as far as,
as far as the paranormal goes, yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. But I can't blame men. I mean, I'd be reluctant to be on TV telling people, my house is haunted. And and it's funny because probably 90% of the men that live in the home aren't having the experiences the women are, and very rare that you get that they're all in, 100%. Like,
Right.
even when they're having experiences, they're still not 100% in. I think it's a whole inner. Oh, I can't reveal that I might believe in the paranormal. I can't reveal this. I don't want to, play all my cards and show people my vulnerability to being open to this. That kind of horse shit. But and I call them out on it. All right, so let me get this straight. You saw this, you saw that, but you don't believe in the paranormal? Really?
You're
So did you
touched.
have
You're physically
paranormal-
touched. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Did you have paranormal experiences before doing the show?
No, I've never had one. Before or since I've been doing the show, I've never had
Really?
one. Yeah. People believe, they're like, oh, that's bull. I'm like, no, not a one. And that doesn't mean anything. It just means I'm not open to it. And
Right.
I've been to a couple of these, I've been to a couple of conventions where they put me in a room with a bunch of people, investigators, and they've had mediums go through a house, a big building, and you could hear screams coming from all over the building, and everybody's having an experience. And then they walk in the room where I'm at, and then, the medium will look at me and like, all right, let's just leave. There's nothing going on in this room. They'll look at me like, so I was called a diffuser by one medium one time.
Oh, that's what it's called. Diffuser. I always thought it was like the anti-medium. Okay. Diffuser.
No, they called me a diffuser, and I'm like, I don't know if I like it, but okay. I'll go.
That's good though. Diffuser. I'm gonna use it next time. That sounds so much better than anti-medium. That sounds like garbage.
Yeah.
So wait.
Diffuser.
All right.
That sounds like something you do with essential oils.
Exactly.
Right?
So wait. Do you believe in ghosts?
Say again?
Do you believe in ghosts?
I believe in the paranormal.
Okay.
I don't believe it to the degree that I'm being told it's happening. But I've never said I was a total. I love when people go like, "Well, since you've been working with Amy, you must be a believer now." And I'm like, "Shut the fuck up! I've never said I was." Never ever once said that. I've always said I've been an open-minded skeptic when it comes to the paranormal. I do believe there's paranormal shit going on. It's the people I don't believe. It's the living I don't trust.
Right.
And that's just the street kid and the cop in me. But I do believe our clients believe everything they're saying.
Right.
The problem with them is, fucking toilet don't flush. It's a demon. I'm like, how about fixing the fucking the plumbing? How's that? Maybe that'll work.
Right.
And a couple of times that you guys have run into what was basically all and out bullshit, you've called it out pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, well, they've edited it quite well.
But still, at the end, you were pretty good about calling it out.
Right.
Yeah, and they've I could be a little brutal, and nobody's ever seen that side of me on, because nobody would call into the show if they saw that side. I mean, I just because I don't
but you have to be that way.
You hold them in check.
I've had so many cases where they were like drug addicts or alcoholics, and they just wanted some attention, or it's a lot of time wasted when these people are bullshitting you.
Yeah, well, I go into some of these homes and like people are filthy, right? I mean, we all know people like that. They're filthy, and the house is a mess. And they're like, "Oh, I'm having trouble breathing. It's the paranormal." I don't know. Maybe it's the 4 inches
fucking house.
Fucking dust. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, and I would say like 90% of the cases I've worked have been the same thing. Their houses were just fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I mean,
dead animals in the closet.
Yeah, we call it smelling haunted to me. It smells haunted, so it must be.
That smell might be roaches. That's not haunted.
Yeah.
That's something else there.
Or the cat shit they haven't picked up in 4 weeks.
Oh,
well, there's
shit.
that.
The one that comes to my mind in thinking about that was where they basically admitted they wanted PR from it all. I thought it was a hotel somewhere. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
No, it might have been that restaurant we did early on in Utah, in Santa Cruz. They, and the only reason I remember it is because it was 100 years ago, and I remember the first 20 episodes pretty clear. Right after we left, they made T-shirts with the sketch that Amy did, and so it was like a big to-do. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Listen, the Travel Channel owns the show, so they dictate. We'll give them 20 cases, and they'll tell us do these 10, but not these 10.
Right.
So they dictate as far as what shows they want us to do. And let's face it, it's a business. They want diversity on the show. So we're going to do some restaurants, we're going to do some businesses, we're going to do some hotels and stuff like that, which I think is good in a way. Like we did a movie theater out in Missouri, it was out in the middle of nowhere. And that was a family-owned business. It was like the only movie theater for like 40 friggin' miles. So they had a lot of stake in it, and they were pretty genuine people. I really liked them a lot. So something like that, you don't mind doing a business.
Right.
Not too far from where I'm at, by the way. Marshall, Missouri. What's that town?
Yeah, Marshall. Real sweet people. Husband and wife, and the father of the woman that owned the place. I mean, they're real sweet people. And I mean, the town was like you blinked and you're done. You're out of it. It was kind of like the only place in town. So for us to help them out like that, and if they can get business because we went there, that's even better. Good for them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
So I would definitely want to dig deeper into the Dead Files and the paranormal kind of cases there. Give more of your intrigue on that. But I also want to ask, related to your homicide detective work, what was your biggest case?
Newsworthy case was probably the Carnegie Deli case. Was 5 people shot, 3 murdered above the Carnegie Deli in Manhattan, and that was worldwide news. That was probably the biggest newsworthy case. The Grimes case, the son and mother that killed the landlord of the place. off the top of my head, there's so many cases, it's hard to remember. But the Carnegie Deli case is one of the ones that's the most newsworthy that I can remember.
Okay. All right.
One of the things that I see, and I know it's not an all the time thing, but it does crop up on shows, reality shows or documentary shows, is, sometimes detectives, in their zeal to put somebody in jail, they'll interrogate until a guy just gives up and confesses. Did you run across that happening?
Where you interrogate for a long time? I misunderstood the question, maybe.
Well, not just a long time, but interrogate in a way until they install false memories in the person, and then they start to believe that they did it and then later on proven that they didn't.
I've had cases where somebody's admitted to a crime, but then when we did our due diligence, we found out there was no way in hell they could have been there when it happened. Mm. But I've never been involved in a case where somebody, started to believe what we were saying to them, because that's not, that's how nobody I ever worked with or myself ever did anything like that, where you're trying to get them to admit to something they didn't do. But does it happen? Good. I'm sure it does, but it's not in my experience.
Hmm.
Well, the more rare it is, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
I definitely get the pressure with the closed cases and stuff like that, to kind of find someone. But that's when you got to put the bosses in check.
Yeah. Because it's all comes from what I call City Hall, which would be, or the Puzzle Palace, which would be headquarters. We nicknamed that the Puzzle Palace because they're all up there doing a puzzle instead of doing real work. And,
right. Oh, God.
So, that's when you got to put these people in check. Like, don't try putting a round stick into a square hole. Let's not do it.
Yep. Kind of going off of what Jesse asked, Steve, I'm curious, which would you consider your white whale case? I've noticed a lot of particularly journalists that I've talked to in the crime area, and cops tend to have this, a case where it sticks with them more than others, and they feel like they just wanted to do more, but they just couldn't.
Well, I've got a ton of cases like that. A lot of times you'll have cases where in your heart and in your gut and in your mind that who did it, but because of the way our system works and you got to have the evidence of probable cause to make an arrest. Unless you can't make an arrest, right?
Right.
But yeah. I've countless cases where who did it, you can't prove it. So unless you got the witnesses or physical science to back up your case, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they don't talk to anybody and they don't admit it, or they don't, and once they lawyer up in New York State, once they lawyer up, they have absolute right to counsel, so you can't even talk to them then.
Yeah.
So, and if you get an arrest warrant in New York as well, New York State, they already have absolute right to counsel. In other states, you have an arrest warrant, you can still talk to them. In New York State, you can't. So there was a lot of laws in place that kind of handcuffed you doing your job, which kind of sucked. But
yeah,
you got to play by the rules. It is what it is.
Our system, definitely.
So going the other direction, what are some of the stupidest criminals you came across?
Oh, great question.
Yeah, really. Good point. Yeah, I mean, oh Jesus! I've had guys that did burglaries and then locked themselves in place and couldn't get out. They came in through the roof and then couldn't figure out how to get back out.
That's awesome.
There's stuff like that you just you crack yourself up.
They smuggle like stuff in their clothes and pretend like nothing's happening. This is a bulge in my pants, officer. It's my balls. That's what that is. You want to go check?
That's a huge fish.
Man. But that has to keep you going, though, sometimes, right? It's those stupid cases that have to help with the... I mean, with your line of work, what you were doing, was there ever a time or like a period or whatever where it seemed kind of like it's like a grind, the same stuff, and it was getting kind of like you're becoming used to it?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you see dead bodies constantly, and not just homicides, but natural causes and accidents, child fatalities or SIDS. I was the child fatality expert in Borough, and I had to go out on every dead child under the age of 10, and then I had to go to their autopsies as well. So it was just, when you're eating lunch while there's an autopsy going on, there's something wrong with you.
And that happens. That happens so often.
You've seen too much. You've seen too much. And, I got to the point where I could have done an autopsy myself. I mean, I had some of the MEs there would have me pick up the heart and weigh it for them, or pick up a liver and weigh it for them. So stuff like that, it's in hindsight, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? Because the average citizen would be boffing and totally just the smells alone will make you sick, But when you become immune to that and you become numb to it, that's a problem. And you know what? It's unfortunate, but it's part of what you do. And I don't sleep at night. I'm retired 14 years, and I still don't sleep at night. I have nightmares all the time. I mean, it's just, you can't look at something like that over 20 years and have it not affect you. And if somebody says, "Oh, I'm not affected," they're full of shit.
Yeah, that is true. You do.
You can hide it all you want.
Yeah. Imagine you've seen some crazy stuff.
And it's funny because, like, at home, because I live in Florida now, I live 3 miles from my old homicide partner and like 10 other guys I worked with, and we just, every Monday we meet at the cigar bar, we hang out, and you'd never know we were cops because we never talk about it. It's just, we talk about anything else, and if we do talk about it, it's always going to be a funny story. There'll never be like, "Oh, I got into a shootout." Yeah. The cop tell you about the action that they've done, haven't done shit. Those are the jerk offs that they have to brag about. I was a SWAT member, and I did this. And those are the guys that jerk offs didn't do anything. Guys that don't talk about it and just kind of tell you a funny story. Those are the guys that have been through it and seen it. The guys that brag about it or try to impress you by what they've done, those guys are jerk offs. They haven't done shit. Maybe one thing happened and that was it.
Oh man, and the same thing is true with a lot of stuff. Like, let's say military. The guys who brag about their experience. Oh bullshit, that didn't happen. Because if it did happen, you'd be totally different, man. You'd be talking about that shit.
I mean, I grew up with brothers, and my father was a World War II vet. His brothers were all. My uncles were POW. The other one was shot down. I grew up around veterans, Vietnam vets, World War II vets, Korean veterans that I never even knew what happened ever in my entire time growing up. Right. So when I run into a guy in a bar and he sees my USMC tattoo and he's like, "Yeah, man, I can't take it. I saw so much shit over there." I'm like, "You're a jerk off. You didn't see shit. You're just, you're just playing the fucking PTSD card." And that drives me absolutely insane.
Right? A PTSD.
Years ago,
they watch Platoon and Apocalypse Now, and they think they know shit.
Yeah. So,
well, thank you for your service, by the way, Steve.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I was gonna ask, getting through that, what helped you at the time to sort of fight all that when you were a cop? What helped you to fight those sorts of pressures you were talking about and not get to the place where you're numb?
Yeah, well, yeah, drinking, unfortunately, is a cop hazard. Because you kind of drink to keep yourself numb from thinking about stuff.
Hey, but you're being real, being honest, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, you couldn't wait to get to the bar after your tour, and it wasn't a because guys were alcoholics. It's because guys needed to numb themselves a little bit from what they saw, and the only way was, you can't do drugs, obviously, but alcohol's legal, so that's the next best thing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of suicide going on with guys. I lost, 5 friends of mine committed suicide in the last 2 years.
Oh my God!
I had 2 guys. Sorry. Yeah, I knew 2 guys that committed suicide 2 days apart that I knew I worked with.
Well, an epidemic's been getting worse by the day, it seems, following the headlines.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. You got to learn to live with it, or if you don't, that's what happens. Unfortunately, I'm one of those outgoing guys, and everybody I hang out with are the same way. And people go, "You have two forms of expression: silence and rage." I'm like, "Yeah, the rage is what keeps me normal. If I was quiet." But be grateful. It's when I'm quiet you gotta worry, So,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even the crew gets worried when I'm quiet. They're like, "Uh-oh, what's going on? Who's getting fired?"
You're letting those demons talk, man. You're letting those demons fester. That's what happens. That inner voice, it starts festering, starts growing. Right? Is that it? I mean, I can only imagine though on your side, because like.
Yeah, you know what? You don't dwell on it. That's the whole thing that I was talking about. Like guys that talk about, I've been in this, I did that. I'm like, why are you talking about it, bro? Real men don't talk about it. Yeah. Real women that, we don't talk about it. We just man up and deal with it.
Yeah.
I go to bed at night. I'm up every 2 hours. Okay, I deal with it. So I look like shit on camera because I can't sleep at night. Okay, I deal with it. So. It's just a matter of, and if you don't deal with it, what's the alternative? Eat the gun, put a gun in your mouth, or become an alcoholic, or be abusive towards your friends and family. I mean, you got to man up and just deal with it. So, I went to counseling for PTSD, and then I was like, what am I doing here? This fucking person has no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
You know what? Speaking of PTSD, how do you feel that a lot of younger people today, millennials, are using PTSD as if it's like some throwaway thing?
You don't even want to get me started. Everybody talk to, I have PTSD. Yeah, from what? Well, I had a car accident. And I'm like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? You got PTSD from a fucking car accident? What are you, insane? I'm like, you got guys out there that have been in 5-6 shootings and you've seen death every fucking day, and you got PTSD from a car accident,
right? But
people, their teacher yelled at him.
These kids.
Oh my God! Right? I was bullied. I have PTSD. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like,
me and millennials. Everybody knows how I feel about millennials, and
Wait, how do you feel about millennials?
Probably the same way we all do.
Right? I think you're at home here about that one.
Yeah, I just and I don't blame them as much as I blame society and
right.
Parents.
They need a reality check.
That's what you want to be a snowflake, do it on somebody else's watch. Don't do it with me.
Right. I mean,
I think about my parents. They grew up during the Depression. And dessert at dinner was ice. That was their dessert. We got ice today. And so that was a big to do. So when I think about how spoiled kids are today, it just but it's our own fault. I mean, my daughter was 12 when I got her a cell phone. She's 28 now. She's an attorney. She's successful. Yeah. She was 12 when I got a cell phone.
I don't blame you.
Really?
I don't blame
cell phone
you.
At 12? Yeah.
I thought I would be different. I was like, my kids aren't going to be on tablets, but they're not. They're not even 2 digits, and they're already on tablets. They're already.
Well, I got a cell phone right after 11 hit, so I got her a cell phone right after that, and then so that was one of my reasons for getting her a cell phone.
Yeah.
But kids that are like, I see 8-year-olds on a cell phone and on iPads. I'm like, what are these kids doing on a $1,200 phone? That are 8 years old, and what are they doing on an iPad? They forget, and then none of these kids know how to have people skills because everything's on a computer or text message, or nobody knows how to talk to anybody.
So true.
Obesity is a big mystery then.
Even adults are that way. Sad.
Well, they need that sage advice you just gave. Man up and fucking deal with your shit.
Yes.
And go outside, Jesus.
I want that on like a coffee mug or something where I could see it every day. You know?
Wake up and deal with your shit. I like that.
Like I said,
yeah,
it's all fault. It's society's fault. I mean, when I was a kid, if you weren't outside playing on the street, it was you were considered something wrong with you.
Right?
You know? Like, why isn't your kid outside playing with everybody else? Now, if you are outside, they're like, well, how come this kid's not on a computer and not playing, whatever the hell the
Fortnite or Minecraft or Call of Duty or something, right?
Yeah.
God.
I mean, God, when we were kids, you didn't want to be in the house.
No.
Right? The house
Fuck
sucked.
no.
No,
You wanted to be anywhere else.
Yeah.
play with
You can't
sticks.
punish kids if they go to your room because they got computers, they got their cell phone, they got a TV. That's not punishment. You got to stick them in a basement if you want to punish them and take everything away from them.
Hell,
That might be cruel, unusual punishment, though.
what's cruel now? It would be cruel now, especially like kids like throwing rocks and sticks at one another. Like you can't do that now because it'd be like, "Mom, he hit me," and then be like, "Please be called out." And
my parents would have been arrested 10 times over if they were, if it was today. I mean,
right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Listen, I was the youngest of 6. My mother was 43 when she had me. You think she was going to stick around?
I was 6 or 7.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
So I mean, there's no. My mother was deadly with a wooden spoon at 4 paces. Let me tell you.
Right.
Oh, friggin' shoes would fly across the room.
But it straightened you out though, Like I mean.
Well, listen, I was petrified to do anything wrong because
they need that though. They need that fear.
Although I did, and they still caught the beating, but it's like your consequences are. So.
And there is a difference between getting a beaten and getting abused or being abused, right? There's a difference.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
Absolutely, I agree 100. I see kids in the airports all the time. I'm like, just smack that fucking kid. Just
right.
100%.
Right?
But parents nowadays, they want to coddle their children. Oh my God, I can't spank them. Shut the fuck up.
And you have states that outlaw that shit. Hey, Tammy, in California, can you spank your kids?
Well, you can hit them with a paper
this
straw.
state sucks dick, so we probably can't.
In Texas, you can. You could still spank your kids in Texas.
Well, no shit.
Though, let me tell you, CPS will probably get called anyway.
I'm sorry.
CPS will probably still get called, but someone like me may go out there and be like, it's actually kind of legal to spank your kids. We can't condone it, but it's...
Matter of fact, I'm going to turn around now, beat them some more while
I'm... like,
I'm just going to look the other way.
Right.
One time getting spanked with a belt, and I was a good kid after that. Like,
right.
I don't know, I feel like we need to spank more.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't have so many pussies. I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree.
We're going to pay for this in 10, 15 years when these kids are all in their 20s. The millennials are bad now. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when I'm in my 60s because just the thought of it.
Are raising children? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the ones that are coming up now are going to make the millennials look like my generation. Which is scary.
Can they deal with childbirth?
There could be they could rebel against their candy ass parents and become tough guys.
I hope so. You would hope, that somebody would have a backbone for a change. I think society is like, oh, I'm not comfortable with that, or that hurts my feelings. I'm like, I'll kiss my ass.
Right?
My neighborhood. Growing up in my neighborhood, if somebody acted like that, they caught a beating. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That's part of the problem. Everybody's interacting online. There's nobody to take you out and thump you on the ass for being an asshole.
Thank you.
Right?
I miss the day where you can knock someone in the fucking face for talking shit to you. But nobody will say it to your face anymore.
Well, everybody's a tough guy on a keyboard, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They all think they have a right to censor you if you piss them off.
Yeah,
listen,
that's the other thing.
Me and the public guy, trust me, everything I post I got to word everything just right, or else somebody. I made a thing on Facebook the other day about somebody poked some. I went on the Facebook and I found this poke thing. I didn't even know it was there.
Poke.
And I see a whole bunch of pokes from guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I put out a post. Like, listen, if you're a guy and you poke another guy on Facebook, turn in your man card.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely second that.
Yeah,
All of
I
a sudden,
agree.
some woman goes on. She's like, "Oh my God, you're against the gays," and I'm like,
But that wasn't homophobic. In fact, if anything, that was the same pro. It's like, hey, just come out of the closet. You know, if you're doing that, just come out, man.
Who said anything about anybody being gay? I'm like, if you're a guy, don't be poking another fucking guy. That's all. That's simple.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with anybody being gay. Just don't fucking do that. It's not normal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
If a girl does it, then it's like, oh, maybe she's flirting. Great.
Yeah.
Fine.
I like that.
Guy does it.
Exactly.
It's a big maybe even then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be one
So
that
I got
calls
all
shit.
this on
Could be a
Facebook,
Russian
but,
bot.
you know,
Could be something. Oh man.
I'll make sure not to poke you guys.
Okay.
I didn't even know that feature still existed on there.
Well,
Oh yeah, I get poked every day, and then the stupid waves in the inbox.
You get poked every day, Tammy? You get poked every day?
I get poked every day.
Oh, man.
I found it by accident. There was pokes in there from 2014 or 15.
Oh shit.
And I'm like,
I like
guess
this.
I
I like this. I was gonna say I like this. The segue into, well, I guess childhood and shit like that. But now Wes and SK, they have a show called Real Monsters about serial killers and stuff. Do you guys have any questions about Steve's work with investigating serial killers? Maybe.
Did you ever have a serial killer case?
nah, New York City wasn't really big. The only one that I worked on briefly, and I mean very briefly, was that Joel Rifkin case. He was killing prostitutes in Brooklyn and in Long Island. Other than that, though, serial killers are very. You don't see them in the big cities so much as most of the crimes like they were all violent. Drug dealers and domestic violence and the occasional maniac that just wants to kill somebody. But the serial killer stuff we never really came across too much. I mean, I'd love to work on serial killer cases, especially cold cases, but in New York City, you just really didn't get too much of that.
His Son of Sam would have been before your time.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
It was the 70s. I grew up with Son of Sam. Matter of fact, my sister went to high school with the last two kids that got shot.
Oh
wow.
Fuck.
That happened literally, I think, 4 blocks from where I lived. The last
Oh, wow.
Auschwitz. Yeah, she was the last one to get killed. And that happened literally 4 blocks from and that's the homicide where they caught him from the Parkinson's he got.
Yes.
And that was just great work on the detective's part that they were able to do a canvas and find out that he parked at a Johnny Pump, and with Johnny Pump, that would be a fire hydrant for everybody else. In Brooklyn, it's a Johnny Pump.
Okay.
Parked by a fire hydrant, and the cops on the midnight gave him a summons, and that's how they were able to track him. They're like, what's this guy doing in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn? So that was good work. But that would be considered that's probably one of the few for New York City would have been Son of Sam.
Right.
Yeah, there's surprisingly little that comes out of there in the way of serial murder.
It's just there's too many people on the street where you can get noticed and identified. I think serial killers are very much loners and want to keep as
they want to keep out of sight,
parochial as they can, and just stay out of the eye of any chance they can get identified. If you're in New York, 10,000 eyes on you, as opposed to being in a rural area where there's maybe 3 or 4 people.
Or, even another large city like LA, it's geographically dispersed, basically built around the automobile. That could explain why they have so many out there, in part. But one I was curious about, you guys did an episode of the show at the Villisca Axe Murder House.
Yeah.
And, we did that show.
Yeah, that's one that I've studied quite a bit, being from that area. And Amy, at the end of that, said that she thought it was a bunch of people who did it. But you said, no, you think it's a serial. And I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious as to your rationale on that. What do you think about that crime?
when I studied the crime scene, and everything that happened, and knowing what I know, doing law enforcement for as many years as I did, you got to understand, Amy has her opinion. I'm all about experience, and we totally disagreed. And I was actually arguing with her at the, I don't care what you say. I'm telling you right now, it's not more than one person that did this.
Mm-hmm.
And, they added that we disagreed on it. Basically it was we'll agree to disagree. But to this day, I'm thoroughly convinced it was that preacher and that he acted alone.
I agree with you. George, Reverend Kelly.
Yeah.
I think definitely did that.
Because you got to understand something. This guy jerked off in between slabs of ham, right?
Yeah. Bacon, yep.
You're not going to do that in front of a bunch of other guys, okay? That just doesn't happen. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Him waiting in the house. I mean, it's just such... Everything screamed serial killer and screamed individual that did this, So, you mean he went after the people that could hurt him the most first.
Mm.
If you're acting alone, why not do everybody at the same time? Or, what do you care if somebody wakes up?
Right.
Yeah.
It was
and especially with that, when he didn't rape any of them either, he couldn't perform with the body.
Right.
So how's he going to do that in front of other people? So, yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just, we agreed to disagree, and we still disagree on certain things. Like, she'll say, it's that person. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you just described him to a T, but you're still saying it's not. Okay. You just described the guy to a T that matches the history, but you're saying it's not. Listen, It is what it is.
Okay. And for those listening right now who aren't really too familiar with what the axe murders are, is there a quick summary you guys want to do?
In 1912, there were 6 children and 2 adults who were murdered in their small Iowa farmhouse with an axe by an unknown assailant or assailants. They were never caught, but there was a traveling preacher by the name of Lynn George Jacqueline Kelly, who confessed twice and had his confession thrown out of court.
Yeah, they didn't believe a preacher could do that.
Traveling preacher would be suspect.
Well, he also there was other murders similar that happened in the same towns. He just happened to be in preaching. So just
all connected by railways, if I remember right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even more suspect. I mean,
but
he's a preacher.
Shirt.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody saw him with a bloody shirt getting on the train, and stuff like that. Just small town like Villisca is small now. I can imagine what it was like back then.
Mm-hmm. And for people who want to know more about that, if you go check out our Real Monsters video page, we did a whole show on that with filmmaker Stuart Whalen, who did a documentary on it. So, yep.
Man, that seems so easy to figure out. I think even a child could figure that out. Wait.
Well,
the murders?
You got to understand, it's like the Lizzie Borden case, right? Back in those days, you had everybody trampling through the crime scene. They moved the father's body just so they could get a picture. I mean, they destroyed the crime scene. They found pieces of silver in the mother's head that would indicate a new axe that was just bought, and the silver wasn't taken off the blade. That was, stuff like that. That those little things that, and then they said this was the crime. This was the murder weapon. It was some old friggin' axe, and she had just bought an axe like 2 days prior to the murder. So it just a lot of things that in today's society they would have never probably gotten away with it. The evidence would have convicted them, and plus the physical, all that.
Right.
And they really didn't have a understanding of why they needed to secure a crime scene back then.
No. I mean, let's face it, there weren't that many murders back in those days, so they didn't have practice at it. Unfortunately, today, we're experts at it, during a crime and dealing with it. And that's the sad part, actually.
It really is.
Yeah, but it makes y'all more experienced and better. Those simple things aren't going to slide by. Shit.
No, not at all. I worked with some of the guys that were the best in the world, and you'd be surprised what could break a case, the littlest of things.
Right.
And tenacious work, tenacious investigating, and not letting go and not being so, no big deal.
So have you had that case? You probably have. I mean, it sounds like everyone. You definitely would. But have you had that case? Maybe a few of them where it's like the evidence was right there in your face the whole time. It was like you just missed it. And it's like,
no, not that it missed it. It's there, but you just can't prove it. You know, or on the other side of that, 6 months down the road, geez, I wish we would have known about this 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And now it's too late because the person that had that information is now dead. You know, so that stuff like that happens. You know, geez, this guy would have been a great witness, but guess what? He just got shot up last week. He's dead.
Probably a reason why he got shot up.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the nature of the beast. I mean, you're not going to have priests and nuns as your witnesses all the time. You're going to have so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Steve, do you think that tunnel vision is more of a problem that the public thinks detectives have to deal with a lot? I mean, does it really exist all that much in that line of work?
As far as detectives go and homicides and stuff like that, in occasion, guys will get tunnel vision and be like, no, it's definitely this. And I've always been under the schooling of, listen, let's not go sucking each other's dicks just yet on this one. Let's keep our minds opened up and maybe it's that. It sounds great, but let's not just keep that focused just on that. And I've seen cases where guys had them and they'd work on them for 2-3 years straight on this one individual. They could swear that he did it, and a year later, 4 years into it, they find out it was somebody else totally, and they wasted 3 years going after the wrong guy. You know, and that's a case of tunnel vision. But you can't blame guys for that, or any investigator. I shouldn't say just guys. Any investigators that are doing that kind of work, you can't blame them for that, because if you got just some little I think this is our guy or this is our girl, of course you're going to go after it as much as you can. But you know, if it doesn't look like a horse and it doesn't smell like a horse, it's not a horse, right?
Right.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to let go and just keep your options open. If I like to say,
could be a zebra.
Yeah, yeah, it could be.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes it turns out to be a goddamn giraffe. You know, it's just something.
So right now, it's like, so you never seen a ghost. You haven't had a paranormal experience. No. So how does someone like you with your expertise get on a show called The Dead Files?
Good, thank you. That was the question I wanted.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. Thank you.
Everybody wants to know, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah, it's a long story, and I've said it. I've told it a million times, but you guys never heard it, I guess.
Right.
It goes back to me working in Homicide. ABC News did a documentary called NYPD 24/7, and they did a 7-part series where they filmed certain parts of the job for like 15, 16 months. So they filmed the Homicide Squad. They filmed the guys in Vice, Narcotics, Patrol, Emergency Service, which is SWAT in other cities. So they did 7 one-hour episodes of like each type of unit of the police department. And the first episode was the Homicide Squad in Manhattan, where I worked, and I was the featured detective on it. So that particular episode was viewed by 30 million people worldwide, and it won an Emmy for the most watched documentary in ABC News history.
Wow.
So it aired, and I was getting recognized like crazy all over the city. Oh, you're that guy from the detective, the documentary. I'm like, yeah. And like a year after I retired, not even a year, maybe 7 months after I retired, what had happened was Jim Casey, who created Dead Files, was pitching a show to a network executive about a private investigator.
Okay.
That network executive saw me on this documentary and said, well, listen, if you're going to do a show about a private eye, you should see if this guy I saw on television is interested in doing TV, because he'd be great for it. Hence, they reach out to me, and I think it's a joke, obviously, and I hang up a couple of times and
didn't even want it at first. Well, didn't.
Gary, is that you pranking me again?
Well, what had happened was I wound up getting a part in a movie called Pride and Glory with Ed Norton and Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
So I played a homicide detective in that movie, a short part, very small part, but I got that role because of the same thing, because of the documentary I was on. So I thought this was a joke from all the guys breaking my balls. Hey, you're a movie star now, and all this bullshit, right? So I thought it was a joke. It turns out it wasn't. And then fast forward, we did a few pilots in regards to investigative work and private investigative stuff and this like that. All the networks are like, well, this guy's too short, he's too fat, he's too Brooklyn, he's too rough around the edges,
Too Brooklyn,
he's ugly, whatever the fuck, he's and the best part is that he's too New York, and meanwhile that's like the biggest draw for women on the show is my accent,
right?
They're like,
wait, what does too New York even mean? Come on.
Well, they were looking for the next Mike Rowe, I guess, the guy from Dirtiest Jobs or whatever the hell it was. They were looking for that vanilla type of guy, and I'm not vanilla in any sense of the word. So they passed on me, and I'm like, all right, I don't give a shit. I wasn't looking to do television anyway. I'm just, I'm working now. I'm retired, and I'm working full time. Mm-hmm. And then he calls me up about a paranormal show. I'm like, what are you out of your fucking mind? I'm not doing a paranormal show.
Did you answer it that way? No shit.
Yeah. I don't even watch paranormal shows. I watch scary movies like everybody else, but I don't watch, I watch DIY shows. I don't watch that crap.
Yeah.
Because any of the shows I've seen, and no offense to any shows out there, but it's embarrassing. I can never be part of something like that. So I'm like, I'm not going to walk around with a flashlight screaming, and running away like a little girl. So
Wait. Hold on. In Ghost Adventures, the guy goes out there trying to beat up ghosts.
Goes out there, but that's just not me. That's not. So when he came up with Dead Files and we discussed how it would work, I says, well, as long as my side's pragmatic and I have nothing to do with the paranormal end of it, he goes, I believe in the paranormal, not 100%, but, I do believe stuff goes on. I've never had an experience. And that's how, so he already cast me in the show as far as if they were going to do it that way. I said, yeah, what the hell? I'll give it a shot. And I met Amy and a few other mediums, and Amy wound up being the best out of everybody that we were trying out.
What made her the best? Was there something?
She just, when we did the Sizzle, which is, I guess people would think of it as a pilot, she was the only one to, nail shit that I knew she couldn't know. Stuff that wasn't even public information.
The rest are hacks. The rest are pretty hacks. I'm a medium.
The kind of stuff that the detectives hold on to because they know if the public knows about it and you get somebody in the box, they can learn from it from the paper. But if you're the only one that knows it, you and your partner, and you're at the crime scene and this asshole tells you something that nobody else knows, he had to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And she do shit that when I found out from the lieutenant that was in charge of the case, that it was still an open case. And when she told us, she told me about stuff that she saw, and I'm like, holy shit, there's no way in hell she knew about that.
So Amy's legit.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't do the show if she wasn't. All I got is my integrity and my reputation, right? I'm not going to jeopardize that just to be on TV. It's not like I'm making life-changing money or anything.
Now, wait.
So
have you had any experience of mediums before this? Like, have you ever had experience where mediums were brought on?
Why do you keep doing this to me, Jesse?
Oh, sorry. We just start talking at the same time. I'm sorry,
Every time I'm going to ask a question, you ask the same time.
We talk at the same time. Sorry, Tam. I can't see when you're about to talk. Tammy, talk.
I have worked with psychics on 3 homicides. I worked with psychics, and all 3 of them. Yeah. And all 3 of them just, it went nowhere.
All right.
But, I'm open-minded enough to, listen, I need a break on a case. I don't give a shit how I get it.
Right.
I'm going to get it. And that's what I mean by being open-minded and having tenacity is like, listen, do what you got to do. Some other detectives were laughing about it, but, I had a lot of respect for an old-time detective, this guy, Billy Jack, and this guy was a Korean War veteran and came up. He was a homicide detective for like 25 years, and he broke me in. And he had no problem using a psychic. And I'm like, if it's good enough for it, and this guy was a tough guy. Mm-hmm. If this guy had no problem using a psychic, I have no problem using a psychic. Yeah. So I did use psychics. Obviously nothing would have been admissible in court, and I couldn't tell my bosses I was doing it.
Yeah.
But I did do it because, listen, as a good detective, you got to listen. I need a break in the case.
Right.
All right, I'm lost now. What do I do? So I reached out, and nothing really panned out, but doesn't mean. Well, I'll give you an idea how I'm not just. It's not just Amy. I have a belief that people do have abilities.
Right.
So for me, it's not something new. It's just on her level is very new, and not new. It's almost 9 years now.
Even for people who don't like the paranormal shows, I think the Dead Files is different because I find the history parts to be much more interesting. It's actually kind of why I watch.
Yeah, I get a lot of comments on private messages from whoever, and they'll be like, "It's the only show that me and my husband could watch because I like the paranormal side of Amy, but he loves your side of it." So it's one of those shows where if you're into history and I wouldn't say detective work because I don't really do interrogations on the show. I do interviews. It's interesting to learn history, even if it doesn't match anything that Amy talks about. It's just the history is pretty. Some of the stuff is like, wow, I can't believe this stuff happened in 1840, whatever the hell the case may be. So that for people that are into that stuff, it's interesting. So you get both sides of it. So you get that couple that says, this one of the few shows we could both sit down and watch. It's a good feeling, actually.
Well, and this is one of those shows where I think it would have remained unknown if it weren't for you guys too. You get in there, you dig that history out, and you synthesize it, as it were, into something that people digest.
Yeah, I mean, we try to make it. I mean, and this is to the producer's credit and the editing guys. We try to create a suspenseful show, even though some of the history could be boring. We try to make it interesting. But when you factor in the Amy side of it, that's when it kind of like, oh, this is interesting. She's actually seeing some shit that Steve just uncovered in an interview. So I think that just draws, and plus people want to see, and they watch till the end because they want to see what happens. Right. A lot of these other shows, I'm not going to mention names, but people run around with, like I said, flashlights and machines. And all right, so what's the big ending here? Oh, the place is haunted. Goodbye. Okay.
Okay.
We got a voice on the thing. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you're not helping anybody.
Yeah.
So did you ever have an episode that kind of just didn't go anywhere? It was just kind of, pardon the pun, dead?
No, thank God. In our defense, we vet really well. So we're not just walking into somebody's home or business that we haven't thoroughly done our due diligence and do our homework before just walking in. Do some maniacs slip through the the holes once in a while? It's a couple of clients I'm not fond of.
Yeah.
In the past, but it's not just them. It could be the people around them as well that you gotta worry about. So, especially when there's kids involved. So, but there's a couple of people that I'm sorry we took that case, but at the same time, probably 98% of our clients are really genuine and just really sweet people that need help. So our vetting is probably the main reason we don't have that issue where we don't have something going on in the house. By the time we get there, we're pretty confident there's some paranormal activity.
Okay. Timmy, you had a question?
A lot of work. No, I was just saying there's a lot of work that goes into that because I've helped.
Oh, there's a ton of work that people have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm working on stuff. We're going to Tucson next month, and I'm working on stuff now for Tucson, and I'm in Minnesota. So it's sometimes I get my cases mixed up, and I'm like, oh shit, what the hell am I doing? But it's like everything else. When I carry 35 open homicides at one time, sometimes it kind of blends into each other, and it's just like, all right, up a second.
Definitely.
Here. Yeah, get yourself, straightened out a little bit. But, my work never, people think, because I'm always posting pictures on social media, right, where I'm always having fun, always fucking off and doing something stupid. That's like 10 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
People have no idea.
Sure.
So everybody's like, oh, Steve, you got such the life. All you do is have fun. I'm like, that's fucking a half hour.
Yeah. They don't have any idea. They don't have any idea.
I'm like fishing for 3 hours hours today. What about the other 21 hours? I mean, what are you kidding me? So I have to laugh at that. But you know what? I'm glad because, life's too short. I try to enjoy it as much as I can.
Well, watch out for the state bird in Minnesota when you're up there. The mosquito. They tend to be pretty big.
It's not protected, is it?
Let's hope not.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I saw one by my daughter the other day, and I'm like, what in the fuck? I thought it was a bat. I'm like, what's this?
Damn.
Some of the nicest people you'll meet up there. I have family around Fargo and Moorhead. But, those mosquitoes are vicious.
Yeah, I got to say, nothing worse than Alaska, but I got to say the people here are, they are very, it's just so, it's hard. Even in Wisconsin, we just came from Wisconsin. I forget where, I was in the drugstore. I was getting something. I don't know what the hell I was getting. And a woman's sitting there, and she gets up and walks away because she was by the pharmacy, and she leaves a purse, and the purse was open. I'm like, hey, lady, what are you doing? She goes, don't worry, sweetheart. Nobody will take that. It's fine. And right away, I'm thinking New York City, and I'm like, that purse would have.
That would already be gone before you could say anything.
Right.
By the time she got the purse, $800 on a credit card would have been spent. So I'm like, okay. And then she didn't know how to thank me enough for being worried about her purse. She's just, she was just such a sweet, sweet person. And, this whole area, the whole Midwest area.
Small town life, man. It's
they're just,
something else.
They look at me like I'm a farm animal. I open my mouth and like, where the fuck are you from?
Because you come from a jungle, man.
Yeah. I walk in with a suit on and my Missoni shirt, and they're looking at me like, what the fuck? What are you dressed up for? Santa Claus? I mean, come on.
I mean, are we talking? We're talking Brooklyn. We're talking about what are we talking about?
No, I'm talking about like one of the rest of the country.
Like your neck of the woods. Where you come from?
I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
Yeah. Talking about a freaking jungle, man. It's savage, especially back in the day. I only know from stories. I only know from hearing from you and other people. It's like and it's still bad now.
Deuce, I grew up that. The Deuce is how I grew up. That was the way New York was back in those days. And, Brooklyn is very yuppie now. Back then they
cleaned it up, but it's still like.
Well, it was. It's just yuppies and hipsters and all that bullshit with their coffee and their crap, and it's like,
Snowflakes.
I can't follow neighborhoods anymore. But on the other side of it, I grew up in a very tough neighborhood where you had to bop your way through the streets to get home sometimes. Because you got challenged everywhere you went. If you weren't up to the task of fighting back, you got your ass kicked a lot. So,
do you ever do any episodes out here in Seattle area? That's where I'm at.
We have. We did actually a restaurant in Seattle. What the fuck was the Merchant Cafe? I think that was it.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only one we've done. We've been in Washington State a few times. We were in Gig Harbor. I think it was a lot.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, that is really pretty.
Did you go to Heritage Distillery? I just enjoyed some of their stuff just the other day.
Unfortunately, and you guys know from me having to cancel. I mean, I don't really have a lot of time when I'm on the road. So people are like, "Oh, you're in such a, you gotta go here, you gotta go." I'm like, I ain't got time to take a shit, let alone do all this other stuff. Like my producers text now, you done with the radio show? We got to go over stuff. And I'm like, I'm still on it. Relax. But I'd rather do a radio show than hang out with them anyway.
Yeah, right?
What did you do in Gig Harbor? Was it a house?
Say again?
In Gig Harbor, was it a house?
Yeah, it was. Actually, it was the episode where I got... people kind of chastised me a little bit about it because there was a kid that was doing seances, and I got him to admit. He said that he did two seances, and I'm looking at this kid. I'm like, he's full of shit. So I kept pressing him, and it went from 2 to fucking 17. So people were like, oh, you were a little hard on him. He was a young kid. I'm like, listen, I'm there to help these people. I need to know the truth. Don't bullshit me.
Right.
Yeah.
But, it was a good episode, though.
What about Texas? You ever do anything in Texas?
Well, we've been to Texas multiple times. I mean, Christ, we've been to Waxahachie twice. We've been to Austin. We've been to outside of Dallas.
Have you ever been to the Killing Fields?
No, we don't go to any place where it's known.
Okay.
Like Villisca is one of the few. Villisca, the only 3 places we've ever been that have been known. We did Alcatraz, Lizzie Borden's house, and Villisca. And those were the only, and those were considered special episodes, and that was early on. We don't do, because unless there's somebody living there and going through hell, why are we going there? There's no reason for us to go there.
Right.
So many people that need our help. We're not going to waste an episode on. I mean, who we entertaining? We're going to get our own jollies off by,
right?
You know,
there has to be someone there. And the problem
with history that's already known anyway.
You know what's and the problem with like the killing fields? There's not really. If you know that area, there's not really like a house. Well, there are a few. Actually, there's a subdivision nearby, but I don't know if they're really. I don't know if they have any issues. You know, I don't know. I don't even know how you. I don't even know how you report paranormal issues anyway.
Well, that's just it. It's like people coming. Oh, you got to go to this place. It's supposedly wanted. Well, does anybody live there? No. Is anybody being thrown against the wall or being pushed down the steps? No. Well, why the fuck would we go there then? I mean,
yeah.
Who's my client? The fucking staircase? I mean, come on, give me a break. So everybody's got their ideas of where we should go investigate. But my answer to them is always, well, unless somebody's needs us, why would we go there? That makes no sense. We only do
that's the formula of y'all's show. Like it's not like. Because the killing field, or like say Mojave Desert, like that place would be massive. That's a massive grave site for all sorts of bodies. But it's like, what do you do? Interview no one, or some desert traveler?
Who you know, the donkey going across the desert. So how'd it go here for you? You know.
Well, those donkeys might have been killed, by the way. Apparently, there's been a lot of donkeys dying over there.
But that's just the thing. I mean, we do 13 episodes a season, and we have, I don't know, a few thousand submissions. So we're not going to waste an episode. But then again, we don't own the show. The network does. If they want us to do something, and that's usually why we're doing a business sometimes, or something that. But it also has to be something that has where people are sincere and they legitimately need our help. Now I'm
going to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Is the Travel Channel good? Like producer wise, like are they
good to work with?
Are they good to work with?
Well, I've never had a problem with Travel Channel. Now they're owned by Discovery Network, and ever since Discovery Network's taken over the Travel Channel, we've got more airtime than we ever have in 8 years. So they've treated us really well as of late, and they're very happy with the results in the ratings. So, they're constantly sending me stuff in the mail, like gifts. I get a bottle of bourbon for the season premiere. So,
nice.
I'm happy
I'd like
with
to get that.
I'm happy with them.
Maybe I need to get a producer or something.
Jesse,
shit.
We never get bourbon in the mail.
I don't even get bourbon in the mail.
Jeez. They're great people to work with. They're very easy to work with. But it's not like CBS where we're making tons of money. There's limits. They try to actually reduce our salary this last contract. So, but that's just the way the nature of the business today. That's just everybody's bean counting and doing their thing. So you can't take it personal. You just gotta roll with the punch.
I got another question that might put you on the spot. I don't know. Okay, I get the paranormal explanations. I get that. Okay. I get a reason for that, but. I could see where someone could say that the paranormal explanation for these things that happen is just like a placeholder for something else that could better explain it. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think a lot of our clients have other issues besides the paranormal. I mean, some of them need counseling, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So true. A lot of my cases, I end up being a therapist.
Yeah, I mean, there's paranormal activity happening.
A sex therapist. Sorry.
Yeah. There's underlying factors as well. I mean, there's plenty of times that me and Amy sometimes will sit down with clients. I'm like, we're more like marriage counselors half the time than we are, investigators. But, that goes part and parcel to what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
A lot of times Amy will say that whatever's in the house is causing these people to be fighting, or maybe because they're fighting, the paranormal activity took advantage of it. Because So it's both sides of the coin there.
Mhm.
But I always think that not everything's 100% paranormal. I never believe it is. That's just me being a skeptic, open-minded skeptic, I should say, because I don't want the audience telling me, "Oh, so you don't believe now? Oh, you do? You don't?" Yeah.
It's like you walk a line. Like I don't in a gray area. I don't know really how to define it either. It's like I want to believe, but I don't know 100%. I want to see, but I don't think I can. I don't know. I've never seen anything. Not really. I don't know, but I'm interested. But yet I don't know how to really define or explain what else you're saying. I mean, like I've had guests on the show that will explain their paranormal experience in a way. I've even had a guest say that she was even raped by a ghost, and she fully believed she was. When she told me that story, I was like, I was being nothing but nice, and yeah, just want to hear her story, and I believed that she experienced that. Now,
well, yeah, she believed she did, and maybe it did happen, but you're never going to be 100% on any of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
unless you're there to see it and
right?
witness it. How do you verify it?
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I can ask questions.
For me, it's when Amy says, "I feel that whoever lives here may experience A, B, and C," and then I'll look at the clients and I'll say, "Amy, they told me about A and B that they're experienced." So that kind of justifies the client, or at least gives them credibility to what they were telling me. I just don't believe that everything, the clients tell me is from the paranormal. I mean, some of it's ridiculous. I'm like, all right, you can't breathe anymore. And
I get that mentality too.
So a lot of it, I'll give them that look, and I'll be like, yeah, interesting. Okay, what else? So people laugh because they tell me something. Well, I got thrown down a flight of stairs by something I couldn't see. All right, what else? Because I'm not shocked by because I'm not shocked by anything. I mean, people like, aren't you shocked by some of the stuff you hear? Listen, I was a cop for 22 years in New York City. There's nothing anybody can tell me that I haven't.
Right?
Heard.
Yeah.
So true.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's nothing you could tell me or show me that's really gonna. I'll be empathetic and I'll say, "Oh, that's pretty fucked up," but I'm not gonna act like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that happened." I can't because
you see some
But you're
murders, you
also
grab a
empirical
slice,
with it.
Say again.
Hey, you're also empirical with it. I mean, if you can think of something else, you test that. And
Right. So, did you trip over your shoelaces going down the stairs?
Right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm like thinking of that time when you called a exterminator to examine the client's house, or somebody to look at the structure of a building.
Yeah,
Things like that.
We have things rolling across the floor. Well, is the fucking floor level? You got a problem here?
Right. Exactly.
Because if it is, it's the first one I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's test the theory.
Yeah.
I've never seen a level floor.
But man, yeah. I mean, I like y'all's approach. I like it. So, and I think that's what makes the Dead Files works. Oh, the reason why it works so well.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's like the
appreciate
only paranormal show that I can stand to watch. And I've been on Ghost Adventures, so yeah.
I think our concept is very different, and I've heard from other people, and I don't watch other shows. I don't even watch my own show. I don't watch myself, and I've heard from other people like, oh, this show's now trying to. All of a sudden, they have a client, and now they're starting to do history where they never did it before. Okay, I mean, no matter what, we're the ones that started that. I mean, I know other shows have always done history, but have they done it to the level that we do it? Because we get fact checked all the time, and I can go up against anybody on a previous case that they did, and I guarantee my research is going to blow theirs away. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, and these networks always try to do that, and even I've pitched TV show ideas, and then a few months down the road, the shows that are on TV are now doing the methods that I was pitching. That was completely different than anything on TV. So it's all shady as hell.
Yeah.
At the end of the
That's
day.
why you got to keep your ideas to yourself.
I know. I've learned my lesson.
That's all right. Live and learn.
Exactly. And all those other shows chasing around in dust particles and saying, "Oh, look at the orbs in the air."
Oh,
Hey.
Jesus. Or
Hey.
mosquitoes.
Hey, but at least
Moths.
Yeah, this is so stupid.
Hey.
Yeah, I get a lot of.
But at least in Ghost
fans-
Adventures, they try to kick their ass, you know, like, hey, dust particle over there, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Those aren't Brooklyn
it
dust
works for
particles.
them, though, so.
Well, the thing is, too, like, I get that all the time. Steven, at 22 minutes and 11 seconds into the show, there was a shadow behind you.
Okay.
Okay. Could have been somebody walking past the fucking light.
Probably my
He was the
shadow.
camera guy.
Yeah, everything's a fucking. That's what I mean. Everything's paranormal to a lot of people, and I'm like, yeah, you got to stop with this shit. I mean, it's not everything is fucking, is a demon. Relax. It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if it is, fine. But it's not. If it's not, let's not. People call me all the time. Oh, I can't believe you never had an experience. You need to have one. I'm like, why do I need to have a paranormal experience? I've escaped death at least 9 times in my life.
Man,
Why
that's the
the
thing.
fuck?
We haven't even gone to the
Yeah.
full depth of your actual career in that. We didn't. We really didn't go into the depth of your undercover work.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in 3 shootings, 9/11. I mean, I've
Wait, 9/11.
Yeah, I was a first responder. I got hurt pretty bad on them.
Whoa. I mean, do you have time to talk about that?
Well, I don't really want to get into it, but I was there, and I'm still got some serious, stuff going on because of it. I was a first responder. I was there when the towers came down, and I got hurt. And that's it. I'm here to talk about it, so I don't really dwell on it. But I am a first responder. I'm still suffering from health issues because of it, and I deal with it. But I don't like I was talking about earlier in the show. I know a lot of guys that they weren't even there when it happened, and they were down on the pile of rubble 3 days later. Oh yeah, I was at 9/11 and I got this, that. I'm like, bro, what do you got to talk about it for? You're here. Just keep your mouth shut. You were there. That's it.
Yeah.
Case closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happened. You were there. Okay, I get that.
Yeah. So that's why I laugh when people tell me, "Oh, Steve, aren't you so afraid when you go into these homes?" I'm like, "Yeah, no." No.
I'm not afraid of a fucking demon.
Yeah.
One more time. Brooklyn.
Yeah.
He did ever try to kill me. I mean, I got shit 3 times as a kid. I was hospitalized. I almost got killed. I got hit with a machete. Still got the scar from that. Baseball batted one time. I got stabbed in the leg. I mean, it's just growing up. It's just when you survive all that shit, and then the Marines, and then the police department, and I'm like, and people are like, oh my God, how do you do it? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty easy. I just walk in the door, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Nobody on the other side's got an Uzi taking shots at me, so I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, used to be that you, as a kid growing up and stuff, and you'd do shit and you get hurt and you got better and you just went out and did more shit.
Yeah.
You didn't. It wasn't the end of the world.
No. And me growing up, my father, if I caught a beating, I'd better be able to fucking go back and give that kid a beating if he beat me once. I got to go back and beat, so it didn't happen again.
I know that.
So it's one of those things that, you may get me this time, but unless you kill me,
Yeah.
you're in for.
That's why even now when I hear about demons and ghosts and stuff, it's like, and people say, people say you got to be careful. I'm like, but why? I'm not really sure because I haven't. Show me why I need to be careful, and they'll say, but you need to.
Yeah. Yeah. I get the whole thing. Aren't you afraid of something coming home with you? I'm like,
what is it, like
what?
STD?
You mean like a crazy woman? I'm like, yeah, that happens all the time. Other than that.
So Steve, one thing I like to ask all my guests that are on the show, because this podcast is also horror related as well. It has a lot of themes related to that. Do you have a favorite horror movie?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that. The Exorcist for me is probably my favorite.
Oh, Tammy!
That is a classic.
Yes!
Tammy, tell us about your experience. You saw it on the big screen for the first time.
Yeah, I went to the movie theater and saw it yesterday. It was fucking amazing.
Went back to the 80s and
That was
saw it.
fun. Yeah. I was 13 years old, and my sister took me to a movie theater called I'll never forget. It was the Deluxe on Bath Avenue, and it wound up turning into a fucking XXX movie theater like soon after that. I tell you, I was fucking petrified. I was 13, right? And I shouldn't have even been in the theater. And I never ate pea soup again after that.
Yeah, I saw it in the theaters too. I was just a few years older than you. I was a teenager still, and me and some friends went and saw it. That was wild.
The Exorcist will always be probably one of the scariest for me horror movies. You know.
Definitely, I agree 100%.
Oh
man, and it worked back then. People were really afraid of it. It was like the scariest movie you'll ever see.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when Jaws came out. Nobody would go to the beach. I mean, shit like that. It was
still can't.
Well, and that subject was really taboo back then too.
I mean, the Catholic Church would never even, entertain the idea of that really happening. Meanwhile, every diocese had a fucking exorcist in it, even though they wouldn't say that they did. Which is kind of cool in a way because they were, kept it on the DL, and there was that one cool priest in there who was going to go and kick ass if he had to.
Exactly.
Wait, hold on. Have you ever experienced an exorcist?
Who, me?
Yeah. I don't know.
No.
I don't know how that would cross your path if it let it work, but I feel like
I've been around a lot of people I thought were possessed. I can tell you that.
Gotta call a priest over here.
When you were detected, did anybody blame the paranormal on their crimes?
That's a good question. I don't recall anybody saying that the devil made me do it or anything like that.
That was Andrew Yates, huh?
Just that, but then the voices in their heads, the typical bullshit. But nothing like I have no idea I did that. I must have been possessed. Nothing like that ever happened.
I think the closest one that would come to mind out there would be Ronald DeFeo in the Amityville.
Yeah. Oh, that was a Long Island case. Yeah, Ronnie DeFeo. Yeah. I still don't buy into that bullshit either. He was a junkie, and I believe he left the house and they just fucking lit the place up. They were looking for the insurance money. There's a lot more to that story than fucking demons.
We had a guest on the show who was an author, Ray Garton. He was an author of one of their books, and he was told he explained to me that he was told to fabricate things on purpose. I
met the guy that actually lived in the house after the murders. I forget the guy's name.
Family?
Oh, yeah, George Lutz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met this one of the guys that was a kid there.
Oh, uh-huh.
He was at a paranormal show, and it was one of the three that I went to.
Right?
Say it again?
One of the sons?
Yeah, and I can't remember the guy's name, but...
Yeah, I'm friends with him on Facebook. I can't think of his name right now either. Christopher, I think?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, interesting guy. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll leave it at that. Interesting guy.
Okay.
But I thought that, and then I met what's her name? Who's a real sweetheart. I met her and the father. What was the one up in Connecticut where
Lorraine Warren?
Oh.
Yes.
Lorraine, yeah, she's amazing. Well, she was amazing.
No,
Ed and Lorraine.
No, I met the girl who lived in the house. Her and the father, who the subject of the movie was. I met the father and the daughter, and I can't remember the daughter's name. She wrote a book, and I can't think of her name right now offhand. And I met the father, real nice man. And I met, obviously I know Johnny Zappis. I met him as well a few times. Johnny's good people. Mm-hmm. And that's his aunt and uncle. So,
right.
But I met them, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And they seemed, her and the father very credible.
So
they didn't come off as like they were making that.
Okay, well, that was what I was going to ask. So knowing all these people, so about the events of Amityville, do you think it was made up or fabricated, or do you think it was a mix of hyperbole?
As far as what goes, that particular case?
Yeah, with the Amityville house.
Oh, the Amityville. I think a lot of that was all bullshit. To be honest with you, I think it was, it just him becoming possessed. What I know about junkies, my brother was a junkie. He died of an overdose, so I know what they're capable of. So for me, it's going to take a lot more convincing that it was demons than it wasn't.
Right.
And the thing that I always find most curious about that is how, I'm not saying it's paranormal, but how nobody could hear the sound of a 30-30 rifle that night.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that thing's about as loud as a jet engine, but yeah.
Why is he doing time in a regular jail and not in a mental ward? Explain that to me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it were true. I was trying to remember whether he admitted to lying about the possession part of that. I might be getting him mixed up with Berkowitz, who admitted the dog thing was a lie.
Yeah, later on. Yeah. That was his, they all have a fucking story, right? He needed some reason why he was such a psycho. He just hated women and he hated not being normal like else was. Hating people, so...
Yeah, I just find it curious how nobody could have heard that. Again, not saying it's paranormal, but...
Yeah, that was one of the things that stood out from the show we did on the Amityville was how nobody heard the gun.
Mm-hmm.
But, then again, Hollywood, when you see these, with the way they make these movies, it's like, really? I mean, how... Now you get like The Conjuring. That shit with her. I mean, I talked to my husband. He's like, the father, rather. He's like, none of that shit ever happened. But it was crazy, the stuff that did happen. Most of that stuff did happen. And, they said, a lot of it's, and anybody you talk to about any movie in Hollywood that's made about a real life incident, 40% of that shit is all made up by them.
Of course, they gotta entertain. They want to entertain you.
Well, that's their job, right? So they got to make it. Like I was watching a documentary about the Apollo 13, and they were talking about in the movie they made it look like Kevin Bacon and Bill Paxton's characters were at each other's throats because because the other guy didn't make it onto the ship because of some sickness. That never happened. They were like, this never happened, and they were actually pissed at Ron Howard for making it seem that way. But they needed a little, like it wasn't bad enough. These guys were in the middle of space with not a way to get back. That wasn't exciting enough.
No, that's not scary enough.
Yeah.
No,
that was it. But so you had to make it even worse and make these guys look like they were arguing, and it pissed those guys off. It was interesting, but it's Hollywood, right? I don't trust producers for anything. I don't trust anybody, let alone Hollywood.
It always gets me with that whole based on a true story thing on how they used that with A Nightmare on Elm Street. And how did they do that? They did it by tying it to the Vietnamese refugees with sleeping sickness.
Oh my God!
As that being what inspired the story.
I can't believe I missed this. What?
They literally did that.
They put that at the beginning of Fargo that it was based on a true story, and that was just total bullshit.
Yeah.
They just put that on there just to fuck with people.
People would rather go see something based off a true story. So
based on a true story, but not related to this story at all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, basically.
Yeah, now you have people searching for, was Freddy Krueger a real killer? And blah, 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 blah. It's like, no.
Well, there's people,
yeah.
Well, hold on. There's people who believe that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is actually real. But that's actually not based on anything that actually happened in Texas. That's based on Ed
Gein.
Ed Gein. It had nothing to do with Texas at all. But some people still looked it up. Was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre real? No. But it looks real. It looks fucking real. And you know what? As someone who's lived in Texas all his life, I guarantee you that shit probably fucking happened somewhere. But man. Oh man.
Steve, are there any cop shows that don't just make you roll your eyes? I mean, that you like enough to watch?
I don't watch any cop shows. The only one I did was years ago. I used to consult for NYPD Blue. Used to fly out there 3-4 times a year.
That's when it was good.
That was with Dennis Franz and back in the day, and that was about as accurate as.
And he used to be a cop, right?
No, none of those guys were ever cops.
What about the show?
Oh no, I was thinking Dennis Farina.
Oh, yeah, Dennis Farina was. Yeah, he was a lieutenant in Homicide in Chicago, but not Dennis Franz. That was the only show that came close, and I mean they were really. Well, the executive producer was a homicide detective from Queens, so they based it basically on real, even the way the station house looked, everything from the fingerprint board down to every little nuance was about as accurate. I'd say that show was like 90% accurate. I mean, obviously we didn't solve every homicide in an hour, but every case on that show was based on a real case. That actually happened. Every episode on that show was based on a real case.
Good question.
I wasn't the only one that consulted, obviously, but I'd fly out 3-4 times a year and give them cases that were already closed. And,
wow.
Cool.
So out of my case, like 10 of my cases were on that show, which is pretty interesting.
That's crazy.
So what are you gonna do now? Like, I mean, what's something you want to achieve? Like, you seem like you've done so much.
Yeah, I want to get back. Honestly, I'd like to get back to a normal life and just the traveling.
What does that mean to you?
Well, for me, a normal life is like a job where I'm just going to work in the day, coming home, and then I'm getting on a plane and being away from my house, 3 weeks at a time. I'm not. People say, "Oh, you love this shit." I'm like, yeah, I don't love getting on a fucking plane every 7 days, and I don't like packing and unpacking, packing again, unpacking, and it's fucking 12 degrees out here in Minnesota. Who the fuck wants to be here right now?
Steve, man, you're speaking real. You're talking truth right here, man.
Yeah, I mean, come on. People think this is a fucking luxury. Oh, you get so lucky, you get to travel. I'm in Cohasset, Minnesota. I can't even get I had to drive 16 miles to go to get the fucking cup of coffee today. Give me a break. So it's not what it's cracked up to be. It's not like we're staying at the Ritz-Carlton. We're staying at like Courtyards by Marriott. That's like that's the Dead Files Ritz-Carlton. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, life on the road is not as glamorous as people think it is.
No, I think we got a little bit of that too when we talked to Jeremy Spencer too. I mean, he was on Life on the Road too. It was not that good.
No, and I've been, doing this shit since 2010. After a while, I'm not a kid anymore. I was in my 40s when I started this show, and I'm 56 years old now. I'm not as resilient as I used to be. I can't be,
Yeah.
It just sucks. And I sleep, I got back issues from 9/11, so there's always issues with the fucking beds in these places.
Anybody who thinks business travel is glamorous has never done it.
Yeah, exactly. And the people like, well, I've never even been out of Neosho, Missouri. Well, whose fucking fault is that? Get in a goddamn car and take the fucking drive. It's my fault you've never been out of your fucking hometown? What are you kidding me?
Right.
I laugh when people tell me that. I'm like, well, I've never seen the ocean. Well, get in the fucking car and take a drive. It's
you can do it. You could put it in, right? You can make that trip happen.
Life's too short, man. Too short not to.
Without a doubt. There's a flip side to like being on the road. Like I said, people think it's glamorous, and it's not. But at the same time, when I see a client at the end of the day and they're happy and they got answers and stuff like that, it kind of makes it all worth it. Because it's still, I'm still in the service industry. The public service industry, one way or another. Yeah. And it just, that makes you feel good, and then you're like, then you stop bitching and moaning. Like, well, at least we help these people. I feel good about it. But as far as people think it's glamorous, they are well mistaken. I mean, they have no idea. But you get to a hotel, you get to a place, you're there for 7 days. The first thing you do is you check the fucking mattress, and you're like, oh, fuck me. Like the mattress here, it's like a brick.
Oh god, yeah.
By the end of the week,
I'll be in track.
Yeah, by the end of the week, I'll be in track.
Dude, I could not do that. I could not do that at all. Like,
it sucks. The pillows are the size of a fucking tampon, and I gotta, sleep on that. And I'm like, what are you kidding me?
Oh my god.
Fuck, man.
That's fucking great.
I remember being on the road for weeks on end, and I'd get home, and my wife at the time, she'd go, "Let's go out to eat," and I'd be like, "Fuck, no."
Well, that's the other thing, right? We're eating out of styrofoam boxes every day because we order food from the menu they send us.
Yeah.
I don't have a home cooked meal for 15, 16 days at a time. I'm like, and people say, oh, you're a fat fuck. Yeah, because I'm eating out. I'm doing takeout every fucking day. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. Like life life on the road, man. It's like how can you eat healthy? Oh, goddamn.
It's almost impossible. I mean, you go down south, you order grilled chicken, and it comes smothered in gravy and fucking. I'm like, really?
Hey, that's how we like it. There's nothing healthy down here.
No.
Our salads are greasy.
They're salad and it's fried. I'm like, come on, give me
chicken fried steak, man. That shit's good.
Who ordered fried chicken on their salad?
Man, Steve DiSchiavi? Oh, I messed it up.
DiSchiavi. Oh my God, you're fucking fired.
I will fucking jump.
You can't fire me from my own show. Steve DiSchiavi, man. It's great having you on the show, man. We're coming to an end.
You guys have.
But man, this has been great. I feel like we could go on for hours if there wasn't like
I think so
arbitrary like show restriction. But it is what it is. Anything you want to plug real fast before we wrap up?
Well, season 11 ended, and we're almost at the end of filming season 12. We have 3 episodes left to finish season 12, and I'm not really sure when that's going to start airing. I'm guessing February, maybe March. It'll start airing the new season. We were on Thursdays. They took us off, put us on Sundays, and now we're on Sundays and Thursdays, but not all day on Thursday. I think we're on for like 4 hours. So we're in reruns now, so I can understand why they did that. And then it's driving the fans crazy, obviously. But people can hit me up on Instagram, and that's Steve DiSchiavi. And I don't really do Twitter and Facebook much. Twitter just annoys me.
Oh, Twitter is annoying. Talk about Snowflake Central, man. I only use Twitter for business. That's it. Like, I see stuff, and I'm like, don't tweet. It's a dumpster fire. Don't get involved. And I can't help myself sometimes. I'm like,
it's the sewer system of the world.
It is.
That's why I enjoy Instagram. You post a photo, people comment, whatever. It's fun. There's not. Yeah. There's, and I'm always breaking balls on it. I'm always putting something, funny, or I like making fun of myself. I have no problem posting a picture where I look retarded, so I don't care about that.
Hey, that's how you know. That's how you know, man. Yeah.
You gonna write a book?
Me? No. Everybody asks me that. No, I ain't writing a book. To me, that's just, I don't know. It's like it's like narcissistic to me to write a book about yourself. I couldn't do it.
Well, it could be fiction.
Yeah, I never even thought about that, but I can barely, get through the day, let alone think about writing. But I have a very good friend of mine who's a professional drummer who wrote a book, and he told me what he went through. It took him 4 years and all the shit he had to go through. He says it's not worth it. He says, trust me, you got to really be focused, and if you're working and trying to do that at the same time, it's almost impossible. So I don't.
It is.
Yeah, I don't entertain it.
All right, man.
But,
all right.
Yeah, if you don't got a passion for it, it's really pointless.
No, it's not something I've ever been interested in. I'd rather do a TV, radio show rather than talk with people, one-on-one than.
Hey, that'd be great. Like a podcast or something. You could easily set that up.
Yeah, you should.
Hey, I think you'd be great on ours, on Real Monsters, man.
Hey, yeah. I mean, these guys, SK and Wes, they talk about crime all the fucking time. Every Thursday, they talk about serial killers and shit. And I mean, Wes is pretty good. He so is SK. They're both really good at it. Very thorough.
I hope you guys do well with it.
Yeah, I hope you can come back on again sometime. It'll be great.
Yeah, just I'm sorry about canceling you on the last time.
It happens, man.
Family. Oh no.
Yeah, no
family
worries.
First. Family first, even for me, man.
Matter of fact, he's back in the hospital now. He's not doing too good. So.
Sorry
to hear that.
Right, yeah. So he's my oldest brother. He's 70. Just turned 79. So.
Oh man.
Isn't that weird to have your siblings get old?
Well, I'm the 6th. So.
Yeah.
And my mother was 43 when she had me. She was 20 when she had my oldest brother.
It's weird. Do you see him as 79, or do you see him much younger, or is it kind of weird to fathom that?
Well,
this
most he's fucking 5. My brother.
Yeah.
He's a fucking he's out of his mind. But now that I'm seeing he's aged a lot in the last few years, and it's just hard to see him that way.
Wow.
Because technically he could be my father. That's the age difference. It was 23 years apart, but it's just hard to see him because I remember him when I was a kid. You always look up to your older brother.
Yeah.
And to see him like that is just heartbreaking. So
Man.
I hope he pulls out. He's a tough.
I hope he does too,
this.
man. Hope he does too. Look,
I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, family first, man. There's been a show where SK and Tammy had to cover because I was watching my son doing ninja kicks. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it or something. Something was happening. Maybe I was on the call. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, you went
anymore.
to your stupid family event of all things.
Right.
Jesus.
Hey, my son
How
is
lame is
adorable
that?
doing ninja kicks too, by the way. Anyway,
I appreciate you guys having me on.
it's no problem. DiSchiavi,
Anytime.
we got to do this again sometime. We could
Okay.
probably just
All right,
bullshit
guys.
about family
Thank you.
life. Anyway,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, who made it this far, press the like button, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much. Thank you all. You have a good one.